Hello and welcome back to the single malt review. We've got our third and last of our Amrut lineup, and it's the 100% peated.
Now, contrary to what we said in our last episode, we thought it was peated Indian barley. In this case, no, it's all imported Scottish peated barley. In contrast to the Amrut fusion, which involved unpeated Indian barley and the imported Scottish peated variety.
So this one is quite a Franken malt, grown somewhere in the British Isles. Malted, actually we don't know. I'll see if I can make that distinction. If they've used Islay peat, it's probably from the Port Charlotte maltings. If they used mainland peat, then it's anybody's guess. I'd have to look up where, say, probably Ardmore's peated malt comes from. It's likely from there. Anyway, we'll just have to find out.
Matured in Bangalore in India in bourbon barrels. So, yeah, very
much the same
international collaboration there.
as the other ones. And as the other ones, no colouring, no chill filtration, we will assume.
And a sturdy 46%.
Try not to destroy this lid on the way out here. No, we've got a winner. Mostly. There we are. It's stuck to me to some extent. So, 100% peated. To what level, they haven't told us.
Well, I'm getting
And
some
at
peat
first
fumes
brush-
already.
At first brush, I'd say not a tremendously high. Ooh, that's a bit different. There's something going on there. Hang on.
Oh, I'm getting a hint of oily fish, which to me screams out Kilhoman. So it's a very Islay peating
That
aroma.
is quite a deep, dark, and dare I say, dank flavour emanating from that one. That's manifestly different from the last two we've
there is
tried.
not a bevy of oranges and a tray of spices.
No, whereas the last
Those
two
wings.
were very fresh and fruity, quite vibrant, quite lifted. This one is... That is almost brooding. It's sort of
It's briny and iodine-y. So it's not in it. It's obviously the peat is influencing there, but it's not just a smell of peat and nothing else.
No, that's really quite difficult to tease out there. The aromas they're sort of coiled up in the bottom of the glass and they're refusing to come out. They're just sort of sitting in there frowning darkly out of it. It's a really, really very, very different, manifestly different nose on it. That's quite fascinating. Whether it's a good thing or not, we'll just have to see. But as for flavours, as Dave says, there's quite a distinct fishiness. There's a real oily kind of a tar coming out of there. And oil itself, a little bit of, say, your Brent crude coming out of there. If you've ever smelled that one. Very, very petrochemical.
Fusty, I think would be the term for a more of a
Sort
Scottish
of, yeah.
influence.
And just either the fruit that was in the last one has just been overridden by this peat, or it simply isn't there. Which makes me think maybe that was derived from the Indian malt.
It's an innate characteristic of barley grown in India,
rather than the distillation or maturation. Because what we're seeing here is quite fascinating in that there's something grown in a very different, almost opposite climate to where it was distilled and matured. So this is a real interesting sort of vector in whisky dynamics. Whew.
Oh goodness, that's There's tobacco smoke. There's cigars. There's even a little bit of an ashtray. That's a very Islay flavour, at first at least.
Yeah, there is some. Boy,
spent fireworks.
There's some real burnt char. There's char and ash and really sort of like a burned newspaper almost. I'd say this is Islay peat, probably quite unmistakably Islay peat. It's very, very marine and cloying. This is a very odd whiskey.
Yeah, I'm getting some lots of Kilhoman characters. Also some Bowmore or those other some of the more savage Brook Laddies even.
If you were describing this as an Islay whiskey, as whiskey describers I want to do, you would go in with your dirty characteristics. This is a very dirty, grubby dockside of whiskey. This has, tarry rope and a couple of days old fish baskets and
old jute sacks and
this goes even further. This has got a chemical end on it, an oily end on it. I'm getting everything in here from crude oil to even some burning polystyrene on here.
Tobacco ash is an odd one, but I'm definitely getting some of
No,
that.
and certainly, freshly, if you smell the end of a recently gone out or expired cigar, it's a distinct smell on there, and that is very present here.
Not holding back and adding water. This is going to go places, I think, with a significant watering.
I'll just add a smidge, I think.
Yeah, it went very cloudy at first, now it's back to being clear again. Oh, that now smells of... So we'll take away a lot of the smoke, but left with other aspects of peat aroma aside from the smoke, if that makes sense. There's a little bit of fruit there. There's a little bit of that citrus. It's just trying to hold its hand up above the waves.
This is fascinating, is what this is. This shows just how much the character of the malt makes a whiskey. And it proves that probably a lot more stock should be put into the provenance of where the barley comes from, because that's one thing you almost never hear about. You'll hear about where the casks come from and how good quality and everything they are. You'll hear about the stills and how big or curiously bloody small or whatever the catchline is. You hear about them. You'll hear about where the warehouses are. What special sort of wind blows over the cask as they age. And no one really wants to talk about where the barley comes from. And I think there's a bit of a discussion to be had there, because where it comes from is usually all over the place. A lot of barley that ends up in Scotch whisky comes from England, which I'm sure they would hate to admit, but it all gets trucked up there, and it comes out of really only 3 or 4 different enormous malting factories to their various specifications, and then in it goes to the distilleries. But considering it makes up, when you think about it, or at least chemically, almost 100% of the final product, albeit in a modified form, when you take out the trace characteristics that the yeast and subsequently the barrels impart, the barley is really what you're drinking, just at the other end of its life. So I think the provenance of barley, I think, should be a more important thing. And I think it probably isn't for various sensible and economic reasons, because that would be a hell of a stone to overturn. And really starting to advertise a barley provenance. But never mind. But this, I think, is a real expose into how much effect this can have.
I'm thinking that maybe the peat itself is more of a linchpin than the barley. I reckon if you'd say malted some Indian barley using Islay peat, you might well get very similar or exactly the same result.
I really don't know. I wonder if you would. It's the total absence of that orange character that we found in the other whiskies that was so dominant, and that creamy quality that was so dominant. They're both, more than just being masked by the peat, they're simply not here.
There adds a significant amount of water to mine, and there's hints of that. It's very subdued, very mellowed out, but there's traces of that orange, more of an orange juice character now, but just hiding in the background.
And what they've done,
taken a lot to get that, though,
is managed to all but forge in its like nature a really grubby sort of cross between a Blowmore and a Lefroy, and it's absolutely uncanny how similar that tastes. This could have, tasting blind, this would have fooled me outright. I would be completely without the ability to say this isn't Scotch whisky, because the Islay characters are so obvious and so true to say, Bowmore more than anything else, a really heavily peated Bowmore is what I'm getting.
Bowmore or Kilhoman I would have picked if it's been given to me blind.
So it's fascinating, and as a fan of Islay whiskey, I really quite like it. It's that sort of really grubby Islay whiskey, which is, the prospect of a second glass is maybe not exactly why you come to it. It's more something that kind of wakes you up, vitalises you. That sort of...
It's not quite the assault on the senses that, say, an Ardbeg is, but then it's very much all peat all the time.
So this is phenomenal, and it's going to be a nightmare for me to score, because I'll have to go back. I mean, all of our scores are based on how much we enjoy something. We try to eliminate price. We try to eliminate sort of anything artificial to simply the quality of the whiskey. Which, if you're going to have scores that are qualitative with each other, that's really all you can do. When you start trying to factor in price or, true to style or something like that, it turns into this massive, complex mathematical exercise which almost immediately goes totally out of control. People have tried it in the past and it does not work. It does not work, especially when you're trying to compare one score with another. So what we enjoy and what we don't is really the only consistency we have here at the Single Malt Review. So applying that, I really actually kind of enjoy this. And it fascinates me, which is something I really like to be fascinated and surprised. And it's a rarer thing every year I exist on the face of the earth that something can surprise me. So this one is an 85 for me. It's a real eye opener, and in terms of whiskey, it's really, really good as well. It's so comparable to an Islay whiskey, a really grubby, fishy old Islay whiskey. It's just stunning, I think. 85 for me.
Oh, interesting. Before you said that, I was hedging towards 85 as well. This is so intensely peaty without being overwhelmingly so. It's not sickening the way a phenomenally peated whiskey can be, but it's got that vibrancy and freshness which we've seen in the other Amrut whiskies, where it's a young spirit, but it has gone places in its short life. And so it's good combining that, the heavy peat, with the youthful spirit that's been matured in those amazing Bangalore conditions, and it's produced a very, very good, very peated whiskey, and it's great to see what they have done with their Scottish peated barley.
Yeah,
what they have made
just
of it.
Really, really pleasingly weird stuff, I guess you'd call it. A real head scratcher. This one. Amrut single malt whiskey peated. Goodness knows. But a really fascinating experiment out of the thing. I'd really like to taste more of this. I'd especially like to taste something with a age statement on it to see if it undergoes this sort of mellowing character that these really raw elemental Islay whiskies do on their own in less time, because waiting for your Bowmores and your Collilas to turn into these lovely, subtle, magical whiskies that they do when they approach 20, even sometimes 30 years old, you've got to wait for the peat to cook off. Whether that process could be accelerated and Amrut could make something likened to that, then I would be really, really interested. But at the moment, it's just weird. It's baffling and delicious. Bafflingly delicious? Who knows? Deliciously baffling. Now there's the catchphrase. Anyway, I won't go on. This was the Single Malt Review, and these were 3 Islay drams. I think they've been... It's gotten into my brain already. They're 3 Amrut drams, and... This one, most of all, this one's its own thing. You really don't compare this to any other. Don't compare this to any other whiskey. This is just its whole different circus going on here. But the other 2, I think, had a very, very distinct sense of place. And if you like what we said about those, probably definitely jump in on these. If you like what may be a cheaper source of almost knockoff, this is almost a bootleg Islay whiskey. If you want a bootleg Islay whiskey, which is bootlegged magically well, this is probably your option. I'd say definitely pick this up, even if it's in a miniature. You have to taste this. It's so fascinating to look at.
It is a unique expression of that Islay flavour, though. It's manifest in a unique way, which is unlike anything. It's similar but utterly distinct from its Islay brethren.
No, absolutely weird stuff.
I expect we'll be seeing more Amrut on the Single Malt Review in the future. My curiosity is well and truly piqued now. I'll probably be going for some full-size bottles in the fullness of time.
No, I'd love to see something with an age statement on it as well, so we could really quantify just how that accelerated aging really comes into play. But at any rate, we'll keep our eyes open. In the meantime, keep your eyes open for what we've got next in the pipe. I'm looking off shot here to a stash of whiskey that we've got on the table, so it'll be something good, I can promise you that. In the meantime, keep safe. Slanjo, this was the Sing Malt Review.